Thanks everyone for joining us today. Um, as some of you may know, we are continuing to celebrate our 25th year in business. And as part of that, we're doing an interview series with key partners and stakeholders that we've had the pleasure of working with in the past 25 years. So with that, we've returned with another great partner. I'd like to introduce Frank Guy, president of SKS Logistics, which is a successful Western Canadian transportation company who they themselves are about to celebrate their 20th year in business. That's coming up around the corner. So Frank, thank you so much for joining us. And Angela, I'll turn it over to you and enjoy.
Thank you, Justin, for always being such a warm host and welcoming us. We've been thrilled to be working with Frank and his intrepid team of people over the years. And Frank, 18 years in business. And I want to take you back for a minute to the very starting point and where you rolled out of bed one day and all of a sudden things had changed at your employer. And you'd been there for a long time as well. And what was that moment when you realized there's a business opportunity here?
When that happened to me, which was in October 2007, and I had put in 25 years with that employer, so to speak. Yeah, it was very reactive, and it was pressured by customers. So customers I had at that company were immediately phoning and saying, "What are you up to? Because this isn't going to work for us." So that's where we had to kind of make a move quick. So that's what we did.
So you and some of your colleagues from that other company decided you were going to form a business. Had you ever been in business for yourself before at that time?
Nothing too much. Lois and I, my wife, owned hotshot trucks in the past, and they were always leased to the company I worked for. So we had ideas, and we did the books on them, and we had pretty good ideas on some of the things, but certainly not as much as what we endured later. and although I was an area manager and I was responsible for an awful lot of things, there were still things I had to learn to get going with ours. So.
Did you know that you didn't know those things, or it was like, I don't know what I don't know?
For the most part, I didn't know. And I kind of knew I didn't know. And it was like, okay, I got to learn this right to the very beginning things but lots of it I knew because I'd been managing over 20 years at that point for them. So I'd pretty much seen their business pretty thoroughly. And the growth was huge at that company over those years.
So you weren't afraid of the growth, but if you think back to those early days, and I think we met back in about 2008, so you were like a year out of the gate with this new business. What was the in that first year? And I'm sure you and Lois and your partners had many conversations about what do we need to do next? Because when you don't know what you don't know, and things emerge out of the darkness, catch up with you. Can you think of any things that were like real barriers that you said, geez, this is a problem. I don't know how we're going to solve this, that really felt like they were going to be existential to you?
I guess the biggest thing, and really the reason you and I met, was because we had a fourth partner who immediately bailed out on the company. And he was, including myself, were really the only two that had put any substantial amount of seed money in.
Wow.
So our company was left with the burden right away of getting him paid off, finance now used equipment that was still new but depreciated. And that was a huge burden. The work we had, or the work we had coming up, was sort of easy enough. It just was there. You just had to go get it. But it was that background was the where.
So you guys had raised capital, and then your partner disappears from the picture.
Yeah.
You're not the first person that's happened to. My business gone through, a partnership at one stage in the business where we just found that we weren't quite aligned in what we wanted to do. But it's still a bit of a blow because you get out of the gate expecting that that's going to remain your base.
Yeah.
For you, what was most important? I mean, again, you reacted to start the business, then you had to pivot pretty quickly again to solve this problem. If you were giving advice to somebody else based on that experience that you had with that partnership change, what would you tell somebody about how to make that go smoothly?
Well, first of all, I would almost try and not let it happen by being a little more selective of the partner. You
Interesting.
know, I didn't know this gentleman really well. I knew him just as we worked together, but only because he had a truck that worked for me. Past that, I didn't really know some of his financial past, some of his dealings. So going forward, if I ever did, I would be really selective if I was even to partner with anybody, because I'm a very hands-on guy, and and I know what I wanted, and it's easy to do if you don't have to talk to too many people about it. So, not to say that's good to have that other opinion, but the other opinion doesn't always fit. Yeah, so
I think that's a really important observation, Frank, because you can think you're aligned. It's not a lot different from a marriage, right? Would you agree? Being in a partnership in a business is a lot like being in a marriage. It's for better and for worse. It is difficult and expensive to break it up.
yep,
And there's lots of cascading implications. Like there's a lot of fallout when it doesn't work. And it can kind of transmit ripples into your family. Like I've seen lots and lots of businesses that failed not because the business didn't work, but because the partnership didn't work. So
right,
if you
yeah.
were if you were a young guy and thinking about bringing on a partner, what are some questions you would ask somebody before you sat down at the table and signed the paperwork?
I think I would really look at them and just see what kind of energy they have,
Mhm.
and is it the right kind of energy? Because just being high strung and full of it isn't always the answer. So that would be key. I suppose I would be able to come up with a list of questions that just say, is this the guy or gal, to be to sign this thing and time with? Because literally you're exactly right. Business and marriage are very similar, and because I'm in business with my wife, it's even more interesting.
Yeah, sure is.
And you can imagine. So but it's not all bad either. But yeah, there would be things that I would recognize to be able to really make the best informed decision.
Yeah, how much of that
Or
is sort of knowing the person and their values, and how much of it is, what's on paper, like the financial background and credit background and getting lawyers involved, and how much of it is character and, like you said, vibe and energy, but really your integrity. And how do you think you measure that? Like, is that something you get to know over time, or are there ways you think you can check that?
I think again, the experience part of it, now that I've been through it, you get a certain vibe right from the start. Certain people click, immediately almost. But I would really dig deep, because in our particular case with partner one that left us, his credit was crap, his reputation was skeptical, and really those were the demise of that. And then he was a guy that said he was going to be there to do this, but then thought he should be doing that. Well, and it just ended up being a terrible experience and expensive.
Yeah, it's
Just
always stressful. It's when crisis costs money because it costs you time, it's a
Yeah,
distraction in your business. And the
yeah,
wrong partner can really deteriorate your business reputation if you end up with a hostile departure, right? Like if you can't
yeah,
agree on the terms of it.
yeah.
Did you guys always have a unanimous shareholder agreement where you kind of agreed how to separate the company if push came to shove?
Yeah, we did. Right from the start, we had one
Oh,
drawn
that
up.
was a great choice.
Yeah, and it's been tweaked a few times over the years. And since then, you know, another partner did leave the company around 4.5 years. So now there's only two. And that one was much smoother, much more amicable, let's say, and a lot less. So, just it was just a decision that collectively made sense, and that guy left. So we've been through it twice over the over the last 18, 17 and a half, 18 years. But I definitely would do things a little different and just be a little more, maybe not so reactive to what the need was or what we thought it was, and the timeline, and
Mhm.
just kind of take a step back a little more and let it happen. And then, of course, as when we started, that was just in the early starts of our lovely recession in 2009 too. So that made it. Uh, we survived.
Well, there is no way to predict that. I think that's one of the things that um, differentiates running a live business from some kind of a business that you make a plan on paper. You know, you could write anything on a piece of paper and all the assumptions are static, right? Like the customers are consistent. There's no tariff war going on. There's
Yeah,
no
that
partnership disputes. Like everything is predictable and easy. But in live business, day to day, you are rolling with the punches. Like things happen out of the blue, and for me, the success story is more what happens and what you do, how you react, how you can respond when those things happen. Like your partner all of a sudden says, yeah, this is not going to work out, and you've got to pull a rabbit out of the proverbial hat. Like,
yeah, exactly.
so in business, like, would you say, did you learn some things about yourself, like your mindset, and you're a pretty resilient guy. Like you've been through a lot of different things and you always seem to come up smiling. I know you as a very positive human being. Do you think your natural positivity and kind of a little an optimism helps through that? Or what do you think has helped you go through those things?
That's definitely part of it. And I guess the next part is when I think about all the people that have worked with us all these years, so many of them have been there for for so long, like since almost the beginning. So that's sometimes that's complacency a little bit, but generally it's pretty positive because they know what to, to expect from me. I know what to expect from them. The customer part of it, you start getting guys. We deal with a lot of field people, and they start asking for certain guys by name. Well, there's reasons for,
Yeah.
so that's made our whole ups and downs of. We've been through a lot of interesting things, a couple of recessions, major dips in oil prices. COVID was interesting for everybody.
Yeah. I think we're
So we've
still
been
getting
through a
over
lot of that.
COVID, really.
It still hangs around kind of. So, anyways, so we've been through a lot of different things, and we always seem to come out, like you say, smiling, and I guess ahead of the curve a little bit. Like we're not, and we haven't grown like maybe like we could have, but we still have a decent amount. It's been steady growth, and it's we always kind of hit our projections, and we're doing a lot of things right, I guess. And there's a couple like on this list of questions. There's a few there that there are actually moments. Yeah, that was a key part of it. But yeah, I think just anyway.
So maybe just for the benefit of the people that are watching or might watch in the Describe the business to me. What's the nature of your business? Like, who's a customer to SKS? What's most important about what you deliver in transportation services?
Okay, so our primary commodity is drilling mud. We service southern, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia drilling rigs, the warehouses that service the drilling rigs. That's our primary thing. We do a fair bit of the access matting, which is huge. It kind of when it first landed here, it was strictly an oil field type reason. Now it's in everything. Every construction site, every power line, everybody's using matting. It's everywhere. So, and we work for a couple of real good companies. One of the big saving good things that we did, the cost of fixing this equipment is just huge. The price of them is going crazy. The price of parts and fixing. So we started our own repair shop. So I rented a single bay for a year to try it with a, a journeyman mechanic and one of our youngest sons. And the two of them worked it for a year fully just to see the difference between if we fix it ourselves, farming it out, and we also bringing in customers. So now, on the floor one day might be a paying customer instead of one of our pieces. So that transitioned into being able to move into a bigger facility. I got 3 guys in the shop right now, full time. I could easily have 1 or 2 if I could find the right guy. Um, and we got a good list of customers, and we service our own equipment. So it's made a massive difference on our financials on cost of repairs. Like it's unbelievable.
Really? And I guess
You know,
you're also controlling time to get something back on the road, right? You don't have to take it somewhere else, wait on their shop time being available, them to procure parts, whatever, the time turnaround to get that asset back out on the road. Because you don't make any money if the wheels aren't turning, right?
exactly. So yeah, so between myself and Calvin, which is my head mechanic guy, very good communication. And we always have lists on the go of what's next, what's prioritized, what can we defer because it isn't a safety issue, let's say, on any particular unit. And between him and I doing that, his team of guys, they yeah, we turn a pile of work out plus a great number of customers and good ones. And we really are focusing on good customers only. I don't want to work for anybody who isn't good. Like if they're
So
not good,
tell
they're not.
tell me about that. What's a good customer and what's a bad customer for you?
Well, a good customer is somebody that's relatively organized, makes whether it's on the drilling mud side, matting, whatever, or in the repair shop. Obviously, if the more you can plan and prepare, the better. Second is, we love to pay. So and there's lots out there that don't like to pay, so
Yeah.
you do them a favor or you extend them credit and then you wait and you wonder. Whereas you get them too, we've got some main customers that are really good to us. Secure is one of them. Secure Specialty Chemicals, which was Secure Energy. We do a pile of work for them. They have some spin-off companies that we end up working for. Then a bunch of oil companies, that buy from them, but we bill our services to them. They're really good. And there's lots of good repair required people that fix and fix and fit and in our shop. So that's pretty good. So then we get some other carriers where they've got 3 trucks, work for 5. So they're always needing to hire, just like we are. We only got 10 on the road, but we got work for 15. So,
Right.
so somebody's going to work, so.
So you talked earlier about kind of the scaling. Before we got on to this live part of the call, you and I were chatting about
Yeah.
kind of relationships, and I heard you just reference it again, is having this trust relationship. Like a good client is somebody where you've got this mutual trust. this sense of I'm going to deliver what I told you. I know what's important to you, and I'm going to make sure that you get that. And if for some reason I can't do that, I'm not going to let it fail. I'm going to try to resource this another way. In other words,
Yeah.
you've got somebody that say, hey, I need to scale up today because all of a sudden we've got a bunch of orders that's more than what my fleet can handle. And the guy that's got the equipment knows that he can trust you to get the work, to pay them for the work in a timely way, just the way you want to be paid in a timely way. Over the years, you had to build a lot of those relationships, those trust relationships. And it's not contracts, right? Like you don't have contracts with all these people. You get to know the people that are going to deliver and they live with integrity. How how have you built those trust relationships over time so that you don't need a contract to be able to rely on them? Like, what are the hallmarks of building those relationships, and what have you had to do to find those right people to work with?
Say a lot of it dates back to my previous employer. So, some of these people date back 25, 30 years. And companies have evolved a lot over the years, especially on the drilling mud side, where a small company became bigger and bigger and bigger to become a secure, let's say. And
Mhm.
it's a number of different companies that over the years got bought and
Kind of
grew, and the people
amalgamated. Yeah.
right. So some of these people I've literally talked to, whether they're procurement people, salespeople, or field hands, and lots of people that end up in Calgary, whether they're oil company or they're mud company related, they used to be in the field. Like just about everybody started out as a drilling guy or a mud engineer, somebody out in the field. So that's kind of how you get to know them from the start, because they're the guy that's directly phoning you, and everything's email now. But back in the day when all those hundreds of phone calls, it was all by phone, and you had a pen in your hand all the time, and you wrote everything down, and so those relationships build and build, and some of them, and it's kind of there's oodles of customers we have, and I've talked to dozens of people, and I've never met lots.
Really
You know,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy to think that there's field, especially the field guys, like a mud engineer that literally has ordered trucks for me for 10 or 15 years, and I have not met him because he's in Conklin and I'm in Leduc, and our paths never cross. Where the Calgary people, I do get to Calgary once in a while, so I do see the odd one. And then some I've known for so long. When I lived in East River, for instance, that was a tight-knit little world. So they were in and out of my office, where now, the odd guy, but mostly they just phone or email and say, need you with this or for this, and off we go. So it's kind of sad when I do get to meet somebody. It's kind of nice because you actually can sort of put the face to the name, as they say, and it does make it kind of nice, and it does make the relationship even better
Yeah.
without even trying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, because we're humans, right? Like we relate to other human beings. That's why I love having these conversations with people like you, because I know you. I've watched your business thrive, and you guys run such a great enterprise. Um, but it sort of makes me question. Sometimes we have this sense that the world has changed for the worse because we're remote now, and we're not in person as much anymore. Everybody I know seems to be busier than ever, doing more things with the same amount of time. So it doesn't feel like there's time. And I hear our sales team all the time tell me, well, I can't get in front of people. Just people don't want me to drop by and visit. And I think there's some truth to that. But you just described business relationships that span a decade that have never
yeah.
had that in-person relationship. So what do you think makes that work? Like, what is it about that customer that they've trusted you for so long without ever really getting to know you as a person?
I think part of it's our frontline workers. So when they ask for something and they get a particular driver out there, time after, they get to trust that guy, and there's always discussion. Because our guys get to know, wow, they whether for whatever reason, if they're on the lease for a few hours, and somebody's got some time while the loader's unloading, once our guy's done his job, uh, and they get to know each other pretty good. Well, that's part of it. I think I still love to stick up the phone. Like as much as things are emailed and there's attachments with load lists and everything that we do is pretty well spelled out, let's say. But I still like to pick up the phone. Lots of the guys, because they know me, they'll just phone ahead of time and say, oh, by the way, do you have this? I need it on Friday. We chat for a bit, like that day actually, on my way home when I was driving home. And again, not a guy I've ever met, but I've talked to him. But there's always something. They ask about drivers. I had a old Harvey retired after 19 years working for me. So a guy just asked me about him. I haven't seen him. And he actually retired last year. So just think of
It's a good reason not to see him anymore. Retirement's a good
it. Yeah.
reason.
Mhm.
So do you notice a difference? And I always worry about this as well, is that we're using a lot more technology and it's very efficient, right? But efficient isn't always optimal for relationships. It's good for business because I can maybe get more done and there's an audit trail of what the conversation was. But I haven't built a vibe with that customer. And you started out by saying, the thing about having a great partner is that vibe check. Do you think that's true about having that customer relationship and having the conversation where they kind of hear the tone of your voice? Because it's so easy to misread an email or a text message. Like lots of times you get the wrong impression about what's being said when it's in writing versus when you're hearing a conversation and you can problem solve on the fly in the conversation. You say, no, that's not what I meant. I'm so sorry. You can solve the problem like on the fly and the miscommunication. Whereas in an email, it could take you 2 days to figure out you're talking about two different things,
No, I completely agree with you. And that is again when I sometimes I just say I'm just going to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Or Lois is the same way. Lois and I think an awful lot alike, and so she will do the same. It's like this is muddled, and I just want to talk to this person
Yeah.
because
Let's
everything's
clear it up.
confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she deals, she does all of our oil field invoicing, and that's very particular nowadays through these platforms, and it's super precise. And if it isn't exactly the way they want to see it,
Not
it
getting
just gets
paid.
yeah,
Yeah.
it gets rejected. So, and then you have to explain why you did it the way you did it. So
Yeah.
we got this AFE number from this guy in the field. That AFE doesn't work for where they are now. So she goes through a lot of that kind of stuff. But lots of times she just picks up the phone and it works. And I do the same thing. I like talking on the phone. I'm still a pretty phone-ish kind of guy. You know,
Yeah.
I still say the best way.
I've never solved a problem with a customer by sending them yet another email, right? I like following up to a phone conversation with an email just to make sure I got it all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people are tone of voice and even body language sometimes can convey a lot.
Yeah.
If you think back, like what's the biggest lesson? You've been doing this business for 18 years now. That's
Yeah.
a heck of a milestone. And most businesses don't make it this long, Frank. Like the percentage of businesses that make it past 5 years and past 10 years, like it shrinks really hard, really fast. So it's a phenomenal success story. Um, what is your biggest personal lesson as a business owner? Like, what's your biggest takeaway after these years of building this company?
It's a good question. I think just honesty, integrity, fairness. I yeah, I don't think of ourselves as being super successful, but I do think that we're moderately successful. You know what I mean? It's a milestone. There's some years when I think I would do things a little differently than I did. Um, but at the same time, most of what we've done has been beneficial to us. It's a hard question to answer. It really is.
Well, if
It
I
is.
ask you about honesty, is there a story that you have in mind or that comes to mind where you said, I could have done one thing, but my standard was to be honest, and then that worked in your favor?
I think admitting to things, if we do have miscues, and we have them, whether it's an accident with a truck or something that happened on location, and somebody wants some answers. I mean, we're pretty transparent about it. We don't try and hide the miscue or the screw up. Um, I think that's been a big success for us, and it usually pays off. And kind of, and again, we talk about this new world compared to what it was. I don't see the loyalty now that I used to see. A
Hmm.
lot of it's about maybe the bottom line, the price dollar. So that's a bit of a thing. We've gone through those hurdles too, where company X has come to town and jumps in there, throws a few special items certain people's direction
Yeah.
with a big old discount on the rates, and away they go for a while, and they had their share of success, but mostly those kind of things kind of come back around because, oh, we can't use that guy anymore because of this reason or this reason, so you're back in again. And this is sometimes oil company related, and sometimes it's something we hear about. Nobody shares a lot of the real reasons why they switch from us to them or them back to us, but it's a pretty small playground.
Yeah.
I've been giving away, smokers, quads, and all kinds of things. And that's not my style. We don't do that. It's just
Yeah,
not.
I remember talking to a client, this is many years ago, and he was really proud that he had three major customers, like three very major customers. They were 99% of his business, these three companies. And he was in a particular kind of horizontal drilling for different kinds of, waterway crossings and stuff like that. Pretty specialized business, lots of really expensive equipment. And I remember talking to him and saying, "Do you ever worry?" And his margins were unbelievable. And he used to pay off his equipment really fast, his financing, like he'd pay it off in 2 or 3 years because he didn't want to have the debt.
Yeah.
So he was very kind of what we call house. He was he had a lot of house and and not a lot of debt attached to it. But you can't eat your house, right? All you can do is maybe sell the house. And what
Yeah.
happened, I remember asking him one day, and you're just talking about kind of your customers and what happens when somebody comes to town. I asked him, well, what happens if you lose one of your couple of big customers? Like, what happens if the market changes? Because I know you're pretty dominant in this space now, but that could change. And he said, well, that'll never happen. And what happened was a year
Mm.
later, he was in receivership because somebody new came to town and he didn't have any cash flow, and selling his equipment really wasn't an option because he would have to replace the equipment to do the work. Um,
Yeah.
so when you think about diversification and that risk of I got to keep a certain amount of clients happy. I can't be everything to everyone. So I don't want to have everybody as my customer. I want to find the right ones. How much diversification have you tried to focus on, like without going outside of the band of, I don't want to work for certain types of companies that don't pay their bills, or there's not a good vibe between us. We're not aligned on our values. But you have to keep bringing new customers on board because you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, you're right. You do never know. And we're so oil field related that it does get scary when oil dips and things get lean. We've ended up doing a couple of things over the years where we get on doing things of power only. So for a while, and you're probably aware, when things were quiet around COVID, we were moving shows like Cirque du Soleil, and it was keeping drivers employed, keeping cash flow, and that worked pretty good. And gone into a little bit of equipment moving now. So we do. We just get rid of there. Sorry about that.
Business never sleeps.
No, it does, and that's TELUS probably wanting to sell me a new phone.
Small advertisement for TELUS.
Yes, exactly. So we started moving some equipment. So we've got a small equipment trailer. We've got work from a company in Nisku that has a couple of branches, and we do a bit of that. So that's kind of a steady thing, and it's completely away from the oil field concept. And we got a few things, and because we, the old saying, eggs in one basket, ours are kind of, but not to the point like the gentleman you mentioned, where you've only got three and your three are creating 99% of your revenue. Well, one drops off. Well, it could be a third or it could be half of it.
Huge,
And
yeah.
that's enough to knock you on your butt. So we do watch it pretty close. And back to what I said earlier is, we like to get paid. And we like to get paid in a timely fashion. So we do watch that pretty close. And then, okay, well, this guy I continually remind to pay. Not that he never pays, but he always reminded. Where other companies are, it's like clockwork. We have one company that we do lots for. Every Friday there's a deposit. Doesn't matter what, it always. And basically the window of time that they're paying, and other than a glitch in the system or a holiday, landing that Friday, but then they'll put it in on Thursday. So
Right.
pretty consistent where you can forecast.
That's amazing.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
A few other things, with you guys, we've got some good relationships with our banker. We have a good relationship on the lender side. Really don't borrow from anybody but the bank, you, and then PACCAR, which is the guys that supply us with the new trucks.
Yeah.
Not that I don't get solicited, but there's so many that want to, but yeah, it's time consuming to even think about it, and I don't want to just don't switch.
Well, you end up having to, and that's the flip side of it, right? If you're spread too thin, or they say an inch deep and a mile wide, it gets hard to manage as well. So there's a sweet spot between having all your eggs in one basket and not knowing where your eggs are anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. If
But
you
no, it seems
were,
to just kind of keep that little bit of diversity in there with a focus on everything. And I think about it where $1,000 job one day every 4 days is just as good as $3,000 job every day.
Yeah.
For as long as it's the right customer, then treat them the same, do the job just as well as you do for anybody. And those are the ones that just keep on calling back or email.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about like diversity and that's having some what I think of as elasticity in the business, and we've done the same thing with the diversification ever since the business started. We always had some of our core business and then some kind of service work that we did to sort of use resources and to make sure our team were fully employed, and and you've got enough cushion and margin to deal with the uncertainties or the unexpected things. You needed that emergency, your emergency quarter to phone home.
Yeah.
How do you know how much resilience you need to build in? Like you talked about having clients that you don't know when they're going to call you. You're sort of on standby for a relatively known set of clients, and you're probably having conversations with them saying, what does the work look like? I know you used to follow things like, what's the rig count? And as long if the rig count drops too low, we know business is going to get soft. And then how do you respond to those big market indicators? And what are the ones that you pay attention to?
I still do follow rig counts. I actually have one of my drivers that reports them to me more than I ever actually look. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I do, and when I'm looking for what's next for a company, that's usually a phone call to somebody. Like, what do you guys got coming up? You know, I want to be prepared, whether it's for excess rental trailers that we need for winter for projects or that. And then the rest of this is, make sure we're servicing the crap out of the guys we're working for, because they all
Over
seem to have
deliver.
yeah, and we really do. I mean, some of these companies that we work for, be it drilling mud, be it matting, or be it this equipment guy, these guys are pretty aggressive. So, and we want to make sure that no matter what, we're going to be the one that he's going to call and make sure and get it taken care of. So, and good companies to work for, and then our repair shop is a huge component too. It's part of a diversification by fixing our own stuff, but having that extra piece on the floor that one mechanic all day is working on, that's creating revenue for the shop that day, offsets the cost of the team there, offsets the extra money we're spending fixing our own stuff. And so that's been just, I almost think that if we wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have that's just one of the drivers. So if we wouldn't have done that, I honestly think we would have probably maybe not survived, because it was just
because there's lots of competition, right?
There's lots of competition, and the cost to fix is so high that it just was just eating every bit of profit that was left was being handed over to various shops.
Yeah.
So
sort
I
of
think
taking
that's
control of that and being able to control your I'm sure there are a lot of people in lots of businesses that wish their supply chain, they could embed more of it in their business. It's difficult in some business, obviously, right? If you're in the restaurant business, you can't get into the business of making paper napkins, but maybe you can get a cohort of food producers that would have this collegial relationship that helps you sort of support each other through the tough times. I would say every business I know that's lasted as long as your business has hit a wall at some point in time or another. And those relationships are what gets you through the tough times, because it's those people that you can lean on and say, hey, we're in a bit of a pinch right now. And because you built the trust and the reliability and that reciprocity over the years, it's like having a chit you can call, right? When you need it.
Yeah, for sure. It really is, because then you can, and if you're honest and transparent with them, it pays off every. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah. If
And I'm
you're
not
looking at the market,
what's that? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, if you're looking at the market right now, we're talking about there's kind of a glut on the gas side. We're not in control of tariff world. We're not in control of what OPEC does to open up the taps or shut down the taps. We have so little control of kind of those macro events, and yet they affect you in a real way in your business. Do you think that though there's things on the horizon that are concerning to you, or do you feel like you've got enough diversity and resilience built into the business now that you can weather most of those storms?
I think we can weather them. I cautiously optimistic is probably how we are most of the time.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of oil company acquisitions going on right now. Big companies buying other big companies. So as those things happen, it takes a while to filter it out and, you know, thin out the herd because there's always too many people when you do big acquisitions.
Yeah.
And so some of the projects that we would have running right now are sort of on hold until they sort it all out. So we missed out on it this summer for that reason. But I think when you look at what's going on infrastructure wise, you know, different things, I think things will be fine. You know, but yeah, the tariffs are huge. It's so volatile,
Yeah.
and all these other things. You know, there's oil prices up and down in there, but most of the companies that are working, or the ones we work for, are pretty headstrong. They're continuing to do where it would be easy for them just to say, okay, let's back out of this for 3 or 6 months, but that doesn't really do anybody. So that hurts. So I think we'll be okay. I think we're in a decent position to kind of hang in there. So
Would you say that you, I know you've been doing this for so long, you probably don't even think about what you're doing every day as helping create sustainability for your business. You just do it. It's kind of your instinct now. But for somebody that hadn't done this, and if they were asking you, how do you evaluate your customers for risk? I know you're doing it through having, like, you're in touch with them, right? You make sure you've got your finger on the pulse. You're having these regular conversations. Was it difficult to do when you were earlier in the business to kind of keep your finger on that pulse and get the business information that you needed to know if something big was going to come and take you out of the knees?
well, yeah, there's a few things there because for one, when you're earlier in business, you kind of just want to take whatever gets thrown your way because
Absolutely.
because on the outside it looks perfect and it's something, it's cash flow, it's whatever. And then as time goes by and you start weeding out some of those and you focus elsewhere, then to me, I really focus in the right direction and I try and are maybe some of the not the term worst customers, but some of the most shady-ish customers we've got have actually been shopped with, where it should be pretty cut and dry. It might be just a one-off job. Some of them have slipped through the cracks and got away on us for various reasons. And so, of course, the receivable becomes lingering.
Yeah.
And there it is, and you're chasing it. Well, then all of a sudden you find out, well, that guy didn't actually own that piece of equipment. Someone else did, but the someone else is not. So we've hit those little hurdles, but we try and be a little more diligent before we even open the door, let
Yeah.
them even come in. We do have, point of sale things, not those things, but there's the odd one that does sneak by us, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And even sometimes the ones that somebody knew, somebody else trusted, doesn't necessarily mean they're the right one for us. And so we have found ourselves getting more and more credit applications filled out. We get a reference from a mud company in Calgary for an oil company in Calgary, and we'll use their credit reference, because they've already established some sort of a deal with them. And
Mhm.
then we kind of use that as being okay. If they're okay to sell them hundreds of thousands of dollars of product, we should be okay to do $10,000 trucking. And that's sort of how we look at it. And that's a relationship between, us and that middleman customer in Calgary. So been successful that way. We don't get burned a lot, but even getting burned once is for me. So
It's always a
it's
good lesson, right? I always take it when
it.
things go badly, when the cracks show, then you realize, okay, well, that's something we didn't anticipate well, and we have to go debrief on it and figure out, could we have seen this coming? Is there something else we could have done? And we use an expression in our, because we're in lending, right? We're doing credit-y kind of things. And
Yeah.
we use an expression called trust but verify. So if I have a conversation with you, of course I'm curious. I really want to learn about what makes your business tick and what your expectations are and what looks like success to you and what would work for us to have success. But whatever you tell me, it's now my job to go and back check it, right? So if you tell me something, I'm going to believe that you believe that's true. But then it's my job to go and verify that. I think that what I often see younger entrepreneurs struggling with is believing that they're getting the truth from somebody because they've crossed paths a lot. Maybe they belong to a business group together, but they don't ever really do that verification part. And handshakes work when you already have the trust and when people have proven that they're trustworthy. But when you've never worked together before, you still have to you got to do some homework, right? That's part of the story.
Yeah, it is. And I think we're guilty of not always doing enough homework. And
Everyone.
it's cost us.
Yeah.
Everyone, I suppose, is in that boat at some stage. But we're getting better at it. We're trying to be better at it. And it's easy for us to just not take it if it isn't right.
Yeah.
Because that guy with that truck might sit there now for the next 4 hours, but it'll probably go to work anyway, for somebody else because there's enough going on to just keep that flow. So we get a little bit fast. I gotta say we are faster than we used to be, but I like to look at that as a good idea, positive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Frank, there
gotcha.
was a question in the chat from one of the people online. They wanted to know if you felt that the political, maybe let's call it instability or a little bit uncertainty, the situation in the U.S., is that affecting your business specifically or indirectly because of maybe investments in oil and gas or kind of a bit of a changing environment there?
Yeah, it would affect us indirectly, probably more than directly. A lot of product comes out of the States, so that correlates to pricing and things like that to where, but if these companies up here in Canada, whether they're Canadian or international companies want to be working, they they kind of expect that they're paying what they're paying, regardless of what that tariff might be or availability might be. So to us, it affects us. I mean, the dollar affects us all the time. I just bought a Denver, for instance. So that one, it stings right now, but
Yeah.
but it always has. I mean, I don't remember it all the time we've been in business where borrowing something that's built in the United States has been just wonderful, because there's that exchange rate. So
Yeah.
um, so yeah, definitely affects us, but not like it would affect somebody that's working on both sides of the border
Mhm.
or purchasing, importing, exporting. Those
Yeah.
guys are just tearing their hair out most days, right?
It's
They got,
multiple times a day, right? Like they're having to reprice stuff. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, like
Yeah.
they got to be exhausting an awful lot of energy just to figure out what's best today because it might. I kind of feel sorry for them,
Yeah.
because it's so blooming.
Yeah. And it's kind of sucking the air out of the room a little bit in terms of it. You have to pay attention to it, but there's no joy in having to do that. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want that job. So
No, me neither. Although we have a lot of clients that are struggling like that. I wanted to go just if you were quickly to cast your mind ahead. You and Lois have been running this business with your partner and this is a marriage and a partnership, and you're embedded. You work in the business together, you go home together. At some point in every entrepreneur's life, there's the reality of, well, what does my next phase of life look like? You guys have grandchildren, probably want to someday think about retiring. Do you think you'll get bored because you guys have had this super full life running this business and when you decide to tell or retire, whatever that looks like down the road, what will you do to replace the life that you're spending in the business?
It's a quality question, and I do think about it, and I think I would be okay, but we actually were at a birthday party on Saturday night, and there's a fella there, older than us, late 70s, and he is bored.
Really?
And so and you kind of think, okay, well, maybe there's some part-time work, there's volunteer things, which I expect on Lois' side of life. That'll be something she'd be doing because she did lots of it in our earlier years when she wasn't working and raising our kids. She
Yeah.
spent lots of time coaching, volunteering until we started this thing, and now she just works. So for myself, I don't think I would fully retire, but I'd probably not be in this business, let's say. Find something to do. I think it would be kind of interesting when the day comes, just what somebody might say, well, I could use you the odd day doing this. I think that could happen because I do know enough people that all of a sudden somebody might say, well, I could use a hand with this every Tuesday. I think I keep myself entertained. We're not big travelers, but maybe we would become a little more traveling. I'm a road trip guy, but we don't really go very far. But I actually am going to Kimberley tomorrow on a golf trip.
Oh, nice.
That's
Well, maybe a little more golf in your future then.
a little more golf in my future for sure. Well, today too, because I do play men's night today. So
Okay.
but
I don't want
there's
to keep
no
you
shortage
from
of golf.
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
no problem.
I'm gonna ask you some fun questions. This is a rapid fire session. Just
Okay.
one word answer, whatever comes to mind. Cat person or dog person?
Dog, love dog.
TV or movies?
I like movies
Awesome. Do you
or
like to go to
series
the
like
theater
with
or do you
Netflix
like
and
to
all that.
watch them at home?
Mostly at home. We do watch a lot of series at home, Netflix and whatever. We
Yeah,
always got something on
something on
for
the
the days.
go.
Yeah.
Are you a horror film or a comedy watcher?
No, I'm more of a comedy chick flick.
Okay. Like those
Like
rom-coms, hey?
yeah. Yeah, I do like them. I don't like horror films or any of this. Or sci-fi, none of that for me.
Do you have a favorite time of year? Favorite season?
September. I
Why?
just find the fall it's so beautiful. It's still warm, it's not cold. We spent years in Peace River. Well, that valley of Peace River it's majestic in the fall. It's just so beautiful when the leaves are changing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think September is my favorite. Yeah.
Well, I know you were in Quebec recently, and man, the fall foliage there. So I think you and Lois have got to take a trip out there some fall and enjoy some time out there. Just
Yeah,
rent a car, drive through the countryside. It's
yeah,
spectacular.
it's pretty beautiful out there. She was out there years ago with one of our kids on a school trip, and my brother and I were out last fall for that President's Cup thing. Yeah, the little bit of time we spent, and we were always in an Uber, but we're on a bus. But it was really nice just to be around there, and it was fun, and I could go there for sure.
Yeah.
And it was September, end of September.
I know it's coming, so you gotta make your plans, Frank.
Yeah, yeah, you
Frank,
betcha.
I want to say I admire the quality of business you run so much, and I admire you as both of you and Lois as people. Um, the thing that you said was, "Oh, Lois is probably going to spend more time volunteering," because I think of you as community leaders. You give back. You take your commitments seriously. You treat people well. You talked about your team of 25 people and your loyalty to them, treat them like family, and make sure you're taking care of everyone, and they'll take care of the clients, which helps the business stay. Um, I think of all of that coming down from you as a leadership team, because that's the kind of people you are. It's a privilege to have worked with you over the years, and I know you and Lois were at our 10th anniversary celebration, so I can't wait to see you at the 25th anniversary celebration later this year. I'm
That'd be
really
awesome.
grateful yeah, I'm happy that you were able to join us today. Thank you so
thank
much
you very
for
much.
giving us some time.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank
It
you.
was wonderful. All right,
Yeah,
I'll
just
turn it
wanted
back
to-
over to Justin. Yeah.
just wanted to
Okay,
jump
thank
in.
you.
Thanks so much, Frank. Thanks so much, Angela, for that. That was a lovely discussion. And we actually went back to the record books and found that our first lease together was back in 2008. So 17 years ago. So a long connection between SKS and Prime. And I know that we're so happy to have you as part of our network. So thank you once again, Frank, for your time, and Angela for leading the session, and to everyone here who sat in and watched and asked some questions. We really appreciate it. And with that, we'll let everyone get back to their day. Enjoy the weather, enjoy the summer, and I'm going to enjoy September even a little bit more now, I think, because that's an underrated answer,
Oh,
I
that's
think.
good.
Yeah. But thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day, okay?